wide through the hard times, worrying faces. Shed tears as we bury brothers close to heart. What was a friend, now a ghost in the dark. Hard part about it, brother got smoked by a fiend. Trying to floss on him, blind to a broken man's dream.
Well, hello. God bless you, community family, and welcome to Gang Talk with Sister Herron and Skipp Townsend. We're back again this Thursday as we were last Thursday and the Thursday before that. And how many years, Skip?
Oh, I don't know. I failed math, but 2009 till today.
Wow.
Appears to be, 9 years?
Yes. Well, we started in radio in 2009.
Right.
This is our third year at Morris Media.
Yes.
So this is our third year at Morris Media, and we're so happy to be here and so happy to welcome you to this very important community hour that we'd like to share with you. And I want to thank Skipp Townsend for being our co-host for a lot of those years, most of them.
Well, as always, sister, I got to give honor and praise to God. I'm grateful to be alive those years. So, being blessed with fresh air. I was arguing with my daughter last night about fresh air, and she says, "No, I need the money. Don't tell me to breathe." I was saying, "Breathe, baby, breathe." She said, "No, can I have the $38?" And I said, "Well, you know what? Tomorrow, try not breathing and see how far you get." Mm-hmm. I'm really grateful to be alive, and people, I believe, don't appreciate it.
Yeah. If you stop breathing, that $38 won't matter.
Even matter, right?
Won't even matter.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, it'll be all right because she's your daughter, and I know she's in good hands. Right. So you ain't gonna steer her to do anything stupid, and I'm happy about that, Skip.
Yes, indeed.
I'm happy. To be here. Yes. So we always start by thanking our guests from last week.
Yes, indeed. The guests from last week. I want to say thank you to the guests from last week. But because of all the childhood stuff I did, I can't remember who was the guest.
The trauma of being a dad, okay?
Oh, right. We had guests last week.
Yes, Candy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Candy
and Eddie Willis, yes, indeed. How could I forget that? Pontificating Eddie.
Oh, and Candy.
Yes,
oh, my goodness. And what was our topic?
Bullying, yes, indeed. And I'm grateful for Candy and all the work that she does in the community with the young people. Yes. It's so important to bring awareness to these topics and issues. So I'm grateful for her.
You know, after Candy left here, she actually went and did a mentoring group with young women. And it's because her expertise is dating bullying.
Yes.
So she's dealing with the teenagers and that kind of trauma that happens in their little dating. I don't mean little.
Yeah, don't say they little.
In their dating arena. You know, sometimes it can be very devastating if you don't know. Right. If you don't know the signs. So we covered from where bullying comes from, and where did she say?
The womb. She took it back to the womb. So I've heard about from the ages of 2 to 6. But she said even in the womb, the child is reacting to the parent. And if the parent is defense mechanism, certain voices and things of that nature, right, then that child makes a commitment at an early age is I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to be the one to be tense, and sometimes it comes out aggressively. So,
well, what she said, to be candid too, even if it doesn't happen in the womb, it happens from the home.
Oh, definitely.
It's a learned behavior from the home. Yes. So, that was an excellent conversation to help us understand some of the things that our kids go through. So, we really appreciate her and Eddie coming last week to have that very serious conversation about bullying. Boy, and I mean, Candy laid it out. If you don't even need a roadmap, she can just tell you, and it was outstanding. And so if you missed that show, it is up online, and we're happy to say that you will be able to watch it if you missed it. Right. So let's just get into tonight.
Yes, indeed. So I had the privilege of meeting these young ladies it was a little over a month ago, and the topic and the conversation was about the public defender's office, and it's something for me that I never really paid attention to until I was in custody. Yeah. I just, hey, who cares? Who cares until I'm arrested, right? But but by having a conversation with these young ladies, and there was a few young men there, that it is really a lopsided system that we're a part of here in the county of Los Angeles. So they introduced me to Clients First, and not my PD hashtag. So I want them to introduce themselves. I don't want to tell their story, but they definitely have a story to tell, and I'm grateful that they both showed up, and I believe we're waiting on one more.
We're expecting one more.
So we'll start in the middle.
A personal introduction, or?
Yeah, just personal introduction, maybe a minute or two, who you are.
Anything you'd like to share with us.
Okay. My name is Tiffany Blacknell, and I'm a public defender in LA County. I have been a public defender for 15 years. And what kind of informs my practice is that I'm a member of the community. I was born in Inglewood at the old Daniel Freeman Hospital when it was open. And I was raised in all Inglewood public schools, Inglewood High School and Warren Lane. And so I'm kind of a daughter of the early 90s, the crack epidemic, the gang epidemic, the violence the rebellion in 92. That sort of set up my worldview in a real meaningful way. And so when I decided to go to law school, I wanted to make sure that I used my experience and education to help my community. And what better way than to join the public defender's office. And I knew that when I joined that the community didn't have a good relationship with the public defender's office. I realized that because my family is in the system. And we had our own opinion. But I knew that I could give our clients the dignity and respect they deserve and work hard for them. And so that's what I've done. Okay. And I never left the community. I stayed and do the good work.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Let's let our guest come and have a seat right here.
My name's Christine Rodrieguz. I've been a public defender also for 14 years. I was born and raised in Culver City, California. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't have any lawyers in my family, but I knew I wanted to help people, and people in my family said I'd love to argue about everything, and that they thought that going into the law would be a good way to channel that energy. And I knew I wanted to help people. My family, I come from immigrants. My mother is Cuban. My father's Colombian. My grandmother, who helped raise me, didn't speak any English. So a lot of people in my community, there was a disconnect between services, legal and otherwise, because of language barriers and things like that. So I knew that I wanted to help people. And when I was leaving law school, I was trying to think of what the best way to do that would be. And when I started reading about the Public Defender's Office and what they would do to help people, and specifically people of color and immigrants, I knew that that was the place that I wanted to be.
So do you think it takes one to know one? You know, like a person who's been through trauma, a person who's needed help, does it really take one, someone who's been through that? So that's a rhetorical question we want to ask the other young lady
relatability, but let's introduce our third guest before we get started in the conversation. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Alisa Blair. I am a public defender for the last 15 years. I kind of came in on the tail end of maybe why I became a public defender or why this interests me. And I think very similar to, I know, Tiffany's story. I grew up between the San Fernando Valley and Inglewood. Okay. I experienced a lot of observing criminal proceedings with my stepfather and felt like I could do better and felt like he wasn't always getting the best defense, even while dealing with issues of not caring for him as an individual and not liking the relationship. I feel like I was still able to see that in terms of a system and in terms of a cycle, that he was just consistently running through something rather unsuccessfully, and felt there had to be something better that could be done for the community, and came to a place of, did I want to go into criminal justice or go into education, as far as how can I help people of color and poor people and people who look like me.
I think that's a really dynamic connection between the three of you, your sense of concern over the condition and seeing that it's not quite what it should be. I think that's a very strong, powerful, connected message between the three of you. But Skipp invited you here for a very specific conversation, and so I'm kind of like a guest tonight. I came to listen. Right. So I'm very impressed that I'm sitting among local ladies that are dedicated to what you do and have been doing it for over a decade. Right. That says a lot about you right there. So Skipp, I'm going to let you lead this.
Well, actually, in all the meetings we have, Tiffany kind of leads them. So we're going to go with Tiffany because she is well-versed on what is going on and kind of, I want to say we need an organizer, and she's been great at it. And there are concerns, and Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the concerns because the community really doesn't know.
Sure. Thank you. So the Public Defender's Office in LA County is the largest office in the country, the biggest public defender office in the country. It's also, we have 650 lawyers. We are the oldest office in the country. And so we could wield a lot of power in a positive way if we were under the correct leadership. And so what's been happening in the office has been a failure of leaders, has been people without the vision that would connect the community with the office, that would do the work that we need to free our people, to basically decarcerate America. And that should be the goal, ending mass incarceration. And so what the Board of Supervisors in LA County, they're the ones that appoint the head of our office. About a month ago, a little over a month ago, they appointed a person named Nicole Davis Tinkham, who is currently our interim public defender. She was appointed about a month ago to be a public defender for 6 months. She has never practiced criminal law. She has no stated history or experience with working with people of color, with immigrants, with the homeless, with the mentally ill, with the addicted. And so we believe, and these are the lawyers of the resistance. This group is formed from this moment in our office where we are without a leader. We formed this group called the Lawyers of the Resistance, and we have gotten together to make it known to the Board of Supervisors that we want a leader that is committed to our community, that's committed to the people of LA County, to the most vulnerable people in LA County, which are the poor, the mentally ill, the accused. And so we basically did a rally on the 12th of February. A couple hundred of us were at Grand Park downtown, and we invited the media, and they did record and the event, and that was basically a physical showing that we are putting our clients first, that we want someone who's committed to our clients, who give the lawyers the tools they need to combat the system of mass incarceration, to do the work we need to do to free our people. And so we wrote letter the first day she was appointed. We wrote a letter to the board letting them know that we did not want her to be the public defender, that she was not qualified to lead our office. And 390 of us signed the letter, and then we proceeded to demonstrate. And so we plan to continue to do so until they relent and give us a leader that can actually lead our office and be a visionary, and strengthen our office and the lawyers to do the good work that we're doing.
So, Tiffany, let me ask you this. Can we change the process of how leaders are brought into the public defender's office? So, because even if they give you someone who is well qualified, still at any given time, the Board of Supervisors can still, like a puppet master, put someone else in place. So the Board of Supervisors, I know Mark Ridley Thomas is going to term out soon, and they're coming and going. Can we talk about changing the system to where it's a better system at getting the most qualified person, maybe even from within? Because we're also looking at Police Chief Beck is leaving. Yeah. Where are we going to get, who's going to be, next? Who's coming? So these are things that really affect our community. Can we talk about that, creating a system as well?
I think that's part of our perceived demands would be that there be a committee formed with lawyers who are on the front lines, felony trial lawyers, who will be on this committee to select, to vet, to seek out a public defender with the same vision that we need to lead our office. I also think there's something to be said for the fact that the LA County Public Defender has not been a true partner with community members in terms of like your group. There's so many people doing such great work in justice reform that we simply have no connection to, that I have a personal connection to because I volunteer at a lot of these organizations. But the office itself, there should be a committee in our office of community members to let us know what we're doing wrong, how we can improve, and how can we build that connection, that trust back, a reconciliation.
Yeah. Well, let me just put this in there. You guys get a bad rap. The community thinks you're failing all the way around. Your cases are overloaded. You're not doing the work. And, they don't have a lot of confidence. And when you're putting somebody in leadership over you that has no experience, well, that ought to be a concern to everybody, including me. but still at the same time, what do we need to do to make the public defenders operate better, more successfully? And since you are the ones that are actually doing the work, whoever the leader is, it really doesn't matter. They're just a figurehead. But you are actually the ones on the ground doing the work. How do you feel about that? Is it too much? Is it being managed correctly? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel underserved? What?
Let's start here, Christina. How do you feel?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I think, yes, with any job, there are certain times where we can be overworked. But I know definitely for all three of us sitting here, we take a lot of time with our clients to try to make them individually feel secure, that we have their back, and that we are working up their case in every angle that we can. The LA Public Defender's Office, I will say, is one of the best funded as far as across the country. There's other public defender's offices that aren't as well funded as we are. That is not to say that there isn't need for improvement. There has been definitely an issue with getting more support staff, more attorneys. We've lost a lot of attorneys in the last 5 to 6 years that we have not been able to get back. And that obviously has an impact on our representation, because if those lawyers leave and they're not replaced, then we have to take on the caseloads of those individuals. Right. So that is an issue. And so I believe that the Board of Supervisors has to be made aware of the fact that, yes, we, are the oldest, largest public defender's office, and to a degree, in comparison with other offices, we are well funded. But that doesn't mean that there isn't need for improvements.
Right. Well, one of the biggest, and I don't really mean to attack you, and I'm not trying to ambush you, but these are the street conversations, is that in the last decade or so, the only thing that's been pushing through are plea deals, not actual trial and defend yourself and, go against the system, which Skipp and I agree is heavily weighted against us. Heavily weighted against us. And the only one standing between us and our freedom is you.
Yes.
It's you. You see, because I can't afford that $100,000 attorney that is going to go in there and make sure he's spending my money.
Better. And who isn't always better.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
she said that with confidence. Go ahead.
Say never better.
That's fair. That's fair. See, it's just the fact that they're charging you something you really cannot afford to pay on the average, and our cases end up with the public defenders because we don't have that option to pay that lawyer whether he's good or bad. We don't have that option, and so it puts a lot of pressure on you. It puts a lot of pressure on you. Our expectations. Right. You're going to get me free. You're going to send me home. You're going to get me off. You're going to get me out of this, aren't you?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I would say this. When it comes to the notion of a plea bargain, it's something that personally is offensive to me. The courts encourage what's called EDP, which is the early disposition program. I don't believe in EDP because essentially what's happening is before you've really worked up the case, before you have any discovery with an assumption of guilt, the prosecutor, and this is the district attorney's office, says this is the best possible offer. We're not going to get any lower than this, but there's an incentive for us to give you this offer because you are pleading early. And
I like the way you put that, and I don't want to just go past there. A plea deal goes along with the assumption of guilt. Right. Yeah, we don't want to just glide over that. You get that plea deal because it comes attached with an assumption of guilt.
And not only the assumption of guilt, the assumption that you committed the crime you are charged with, where the district attorney's office, routinely overcharges. They have discretion. They choose felonies instead of misdemeanors. They choose violent or serious offenses known as strikes, over non-strike offers. And they do that purposely so then when they offer you what you may have really done, they're telling you that it's a deal, and in exchange you're going to serve more time. But going going back to, you know, how this is all connected with leadership, because yes, we're the ones on the ground and we are the frontline soldiers, but our head is who goes to the Board of Supervisors for money. Our head is the representative who gives, you know, connects with the community or not. One of the best things to have happened with this ridiculous offensive appointment has been the freedom for me personally to feel like I have no leader and therefore I'm going to do what I want to do. And so, you know, when Tiffany and I and Christine are, you know, texting and Tiffany says, why don't we try this? You know, what do you guys think about this? We say, okay. We're not running it up any chain because I don't acknowledge Ms. Tinkham as the public defender. Her name is not on any of my motions. You know, she's not somebody who is qualified, so she's not someone who I am going to entrust the office that I love so much with. Yeah. So I don't acknowledge her at all.
And in fairness to all of you, aren't we kind of living in those times where from the top of our leadership, they're appointing people that are not familiar at all with what they're being appointed to do. And it seems to be a pattern of conduct that's going on right now. It is a political appointment rather than a service and coming in to make some changes that are going to help.
Something like that. No, I need sister to be on the mic.
Oh,
yes,
I said
talking.
Enough. Well,
no, I was just saying you were talking and you were moving. We couldn't really hear. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry because I can't repeat myself. But you got what I was saying is that it seems to be the trend now to appoint people that have no experience with that job title.
Right.
And you know, I hate to call out the doctor, but Ben Carson, head of HUD, come on. What do you know about that?
Right.
Nothing. The DeVos lady in head of education, what do you know about that? Right. Nothing. You see, so here we get...
And Donald Duck. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's okay.
The head of the United States. What do you know about
he
that?
doesn't know nothing.
But listen,
about
so
that
what
either.
can the community do?
Yeah,
because the community,
that's really what
because these are our children and myself. And I was talking to sister about how many people I know. Shout out to Matthew Cook. He just did Survivor's Guide to Prison.
I saw it,
which is definitely going to hit the streets, and everybody's going to be talking about who else they know who's been wrongfully convicted.
Yes.
And here's the thing. We're going to be the ones that suffer if we do not support you. Yeah. So what support can we do right now? Because I need to get support. I got kids, you know. And
how can we help?
I got children.
So our plan between now and National Public Defense Day, which we're celebrating on the 19th of March. We're going to do some community town hall sort of meetings where we do a couple things. And that's one thing is the new case that came out, the Humphrey case. It affects bail. And so now people are entitled to have hearings for bail wherein we submit information about their lives, about their ability to pay, about their support system, about their ability to make their court dates. And we need the community to join us in that. We need our clients and their families to help us present the information to the court to get their people home. Pending the trial. So you don't have the forced plea. You don't have someone in jail so they plead to get home. You want to prevent that from happening by setting them free early because you're right, they are presumed innocent. And so we want to help the community empower them and let them know what to do. If your loved one's arrested and your bail hearing's in 5 days or in 10 days, what do you need to bring to court? Employment information, etc. So we're doing these 5 town hall meetings in the districts around the county. And at those meetings, we plan to present our community members with letters. If they want to support us, they can sign the letter, put whatever supervisor they elected, send it to them, or a phone number to that supervisor, call them, let them know how you feel, because ultimately they work for us. I'm a Inglewood City resident for 41 years. And so in my mind, those are my supervisors, not just my boss. They are my elected officials, and so they're accountable to the people. And if they don't put someone in this spot that's going to take care of our clients, then we should get them out.
I agree.
I agree, too.
But this is who we're really approaching this with, is to the Board of Supervisors. We want to be real clear that that's who we need to go after to make this straight. And, this is very unusual for us. This show, this is gang talk, and I'm one of those that expecting you to get my family out of jail and send them home to me. Okay?
Girl, me and you both.
Okay, and but prayerfully, my family is innocent. Okay, I'm not trying to get you to send the guilty home back to the community. No,
they deserve a second chance too now.
Yes.
Well, if you do the crime, come on, we have to be fair about this.
Well, we got to be fair about sentencing too.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Yes,
the whole
the
process,
problem.
and Alisa kind of touched on this, is in terms of overfiling, how the DAs do it. The whole system is very draconian.
No, say that again in a different way, please.
Yeah, because we don't know what draconian is.
The system, it's very rough, and it tries to penalize people as heavily and as strongly as possible. Okay. And so... and then they want people to then go back into the community after being locked up in a cage for years and years and just assimilate right back.
Right. When they overcharge you like that, what's the likelihood of you being locked up because of all the overcharging? I mean, is the overcharging that successful?
Well, that raises the bail, number one.
Okay.
Right. So now I can't get out.
Right.
Well, that also raises the fear factor.
Right.
Because you have to advise someone that they're now facing life or they're facing 60 years if convicted of all the charges as presented in the document. So if then all of a sudden they are offering a time served
to plead. I'm going to plead. Because I want to go home now.
Yeah. Or even, let's not even make it that, even 2 years. Let's say you're facing, 25 years and they're asking you to plead to 2 years at halftime.
I'm guilty. I have 55 years over my head and they got it down to 5. My mama started crying. I said, Mom, I'm going to prison for 5 years. I don't care what you crying for.
Yeah. Right.
Every day it happens.
Right.
Every day.
You want to say something?
Well, just in addition to, the way the system is, statistically, it's black and brown people that are getting these sorts of sentences and disproportionately incarcerated and thrown away. And so, we do have community members like yourself who's like, well, wait, if you're guilty, then you need to be punished in some way. But, like Christine and Tiffany were saying, when they come back, they have nothing. If they've been locked away in a cage with no resources, with no educational opportunities, no books, no programs, no funding, and then, there's only so many charges that are going to get you life, right? So you have to think about that. You think about somebody who is, going away for 12 years at 18 years old, because that's how they do it. So in terms of also saying, the number one question that I get from clients is, are you on my side? Or, are you going to work for me? And oftentimes there's not an understanding, and there, shouldn't be. You didn't go to law school. You didn't sign up to do this. You have some other choice job. And so when they're saying, I need you to do this and I need this motion, and you not hollering or you didn't ask for this, without knowing there's a time and place for everything.
Right.
And so that's another part of this reconciliation tour that Tiffany was talking about, where we want to explain, in very simple terms, okay, this is your first court appearance. This is the only goal of that appearance, to determine your bail and to let you know what you're actually charged with, because it doesn't matter what the police told you. It matters what the prosecutor decides to charge you with, right? So, one of the things that I have here, we're trying to work on a mock-up brochure that we can just hand to people and give to our community partners for anyone who comes in that says, okay, what do you do when your loved one is arrested? Yeah. So much like Tiffany said, because maybe you don't make it to the meeting, or, but so much of my time often is explaining to my client, this is what is happening right now. Right. I do believe that you're innocent, but it's really contrary to movies. It's not the judge's job for me to say, let him go right now. This is nonsense. Right. And the judge going to say, all right, Ms. Blair, there you go. That's not the process. As frustrating as it is, because for a felony, the shortest amount of time you're going to be in custody, if you can't afford bail before trial, is 3 months.
3 months.
And that's very rarely enough time to adequately prepare a case which includes investigation and experts and that sort of thing.
And really, and I hate to bottom line this, but, we're talking on the street level here. And the most important thing that you just said here is that they need to understand the process once they've been arrested. They need to know what to expect on their first court appearance. And as you said, most important thing, if it's a felony, you're going to be locked up for at least 3 months.
Minimum. It'll be, it's usually longer for the amount of work that goes into, because it's not, often our clients are scared or for record reasons can't testify. So I need to figure out how to prove that you didn't kill this girl because you were just trying to buy drugs, but your drug dealer's not going to come in and say, this is what we were doing. It takes strategy, it takes community relationships, it takes creativity, it takes, the ability to get there. And sometimes you might have an expert who's wonderful. There's one particular ID expert that I've worked with a lot. I've never gotten a guilty verdict on any trial that she has been a witness on. But if I call her and she says, I'm busy for 2 months, I have to look at my client and say, hey, I think it's worth it.
Worth it,
right? But I'm not the one sitting in there.
And I just wanted to pinpoint that because so many people think, well, I'm going to go to court. The judge is going to set me bail. I'm going to go pay that bail and then I'm going home. You just told them, no, not on a felony. No, they're going to keep you.
If you pay bail, then you get to leave. But a lot of our clients, by virtue of us being public defenders, they can't afford.
They're not paying
bail. Is extremely high and ridiculous in California.
Yeah, I would imagine. Skipp and I operate from the premise that the system is trying to keep us in lockup because we're very profitable. We're very profitable to the prisons and the courts and social services and all that. And I just learned last year that lockup in California has reached $75,000 per convict. That's a lot of money. If you have empty cells, you see, so it kind of has, as I was not joking, but joking with Skipp, they'd rather have overcrowding than empty cells.
Right.
So this is the thing that you're up against.
So the scales are unbalanced from the very beginning.
Yeah, the scales are unbalanced, and I see that as a pressure against you as a public defenders.
Well, let's even get deeper than that.
Come on, get deep.
Because it's not just about money. I mean, the prison telephone industry, for example, is a despicable monster.
I just paid $30 a day, Global Tel Link.
Listen, they rob our people. They rob their families. They rob their wives, their children. It is disgusting what they do with those packages and all the snacks. Then the prison guards are selling phones, people in jail. It is a hustle for sure. But at the core of it, though, the fact that black and brown men are packing those cells is not an accident.
Yes. No, it's not an
accident. This whole ballooning of mass incarceration is simply an extension of slavery. Mm-hmm. That is what it is. The folks are way too comfortable seeing black men in chains since the beginning of this country's birth. And that is why it's so easy to cage us in the way that they do. If it were only white men and women in those cells, you better believe there would be an exodus.
Well,
that would never happen.
That's even illustrated by the treatment of drug addiction at this point.
Now, right.
Okay.
It changed. Did you see how it changed?
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with it. I want people that are drug addicted, no matter what the drug is, to get help. That's what's necessary. Right. But it's just interesting that once the face turns to rural America, white America, that all of a sudden the emphasis becomes on treatment versus 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. When it was a different face. It was about increasing penalties at every chance they could get. It wasn't just enough to incarcerate. It was you need to incarcerate for as long as you can.
And you should reduce the age. Recovery. You reduce the age. You know how you talk about the New York Times had an article about the children of the opiate epidemic. And I was sick to my stomach because my peers are the children of the crack epidemic. And what they did for us is built cages. 27 of them in California in the 90s. They built cages for us, and they reduced the age of majority, so they could put them in cages from 14 years old up forever. They did not care for us. They caged us.
Our co-host, Marcus Woods, who's off on the injury, They took him at 17 for something he didn't do, and they took 17 years from him. So at 17, we have a phone call. Oh, okay. Hello, caller. Caller,
Hi,
can you?
my name is Leah.
Hi, Leah. Welcome to Gang Talk.
I have a question.
Okay.
How does my mentor, who did 17 to 19 years in jail for a crime that he did not commit, sign up for rehabilitation? Sign up for a certificate for rehabilitation.
Okay, so we just talked about Marcus Woods, did 17 years. How can he get a certificate of rehabilitation when he did not do the crime?
Is he in LA County or is he?
Yes, he's LA County.
So if I were him, I would go to the downtown office, this 210 West Temple, and on the 19th floor, that's our main office. I would give his name and tell him that he wants that, and a paralegal will contact him and set up a meeting time for him to explain his situation and do some research and see if he qualifies. But he should definitely do that. We do those services often for our clients.
And for free.
I was going to say, is there a charge, but it's for free.
For free.
All he has to do is show up.
Correct.
So, Leah, if you can, get your mom's car and take Marcus. And
I mean, I drove like 2 times, so it's not that bad.
Well, you're not old enough to drive yet, honey.
right.
Yes, but I really thank you for calling in with that question, because it's very important that we understand what we need to do to help ourselves. So that's why these ladies have joined us, and we thank you for calling.
Thank you, Leah.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, indeed. Just as you was bringing him up, here it is.
Well, Leah's our little bully expert, too.
Yeah, she's actually trained for domestic violence.
Yes, she is.
She can facilitate.
Yes, she can.
Yes, and
she's about 12.
She is articulate.
Yes, she is.
On domestic violence laws and the root causes and stuff. So
bullying. She asked her bully, are things okay at your house?
Right.
You know, so she's a child that has a lot of common sense. And
so this is the same thing. This is bullying. This is really bullying. So, you know, the Public Defender's Office, LAPD, the Board of Supervisors, we are being bullied. We are forced into conditions. So if I were to tell any 3 of you ladies that I'm in an abusive relationship and I'm fearful for my life, would you tell me to continue that relationship?
Mm-hmm. No.
Right. So think about that. Our relationship with LAPD, I'm scared that I'm going to get killed or my children going to get killed. But I have to have a relationship with them. The Public Defender's Office, the District Attorney's Office. This is the system that we're in. And now that I've seen this movie that Matthew Cook did about the, Prison Guide to Survival, I'm in an abusive relationship. And at any given time, this system can work against me and incarcerate me whether I'm guilty or not. Should I continue this relationship?
The Board of Supervisors are bullying you?
No, they're bullying us too. They're using them as the vehicle, but it's really a bully against us. It's going to trickle
down to us, but right now they're under the direct assault of this unknowing leadership that's going to come in and turn things around. What can you expect from this person?
You really don't know, because she has no stated history in criminal law. She only ever defended the police in misconduct cases. When people
defended the sheriff department in misconduct.
So that's the only thing we know about her in criminal law, is that she was on the side.
Right there.
That's what we believe.
That's a conflict right there.
And apparently the Board of Supervisors do not agree. But we are still firm in that belief, and that's why, what Alisa was saying, we don't share our information with her. I do not share my case information. I don't talk freely in her presence about my cases. Number one, our duty is to our clients.
Right.
Clients first.
Right.
Clients first. And that has been my career and the career of my colleagues for 15 years. We are not going to, I don't care who it is. We fight judges every day. We fight cops every day. Right. We fight prosecutors every day and bailiffs. We are not going to be bullied by the board or Ms. Tinkham. And so I know they know that at this point, right? And we're going to go right to where they care about, their constituents, their voters, their endorsements, the people. That's who are affected, and that's who we'll go to, and that's who they answer to. So don't worry about us.
Right. So I wasn't. She was. I know y'all got it, right? Top-notch attorneys right here.
I'm just excited to see some action challenging foolishness that we've all been overwhelmed with in the last year. Mm-hmm. I'm really overwhelmed with the foolishness I see from the highest office in this country. So when I hear about the trickle down, it's like, dang, well, who can be surprised? Mm-hmm. Right. Everybody seems to be playing that trade-off game. Well, you're going to get a special appointment because it's me, mm-hmm. and I determine that I'm going to give that to you. So I have a problem that the board signed off on this. What were they thinking?
They didn't just sign off. They did it because she didn't apply for the job. I mean, I think that's what's important for people to know.
They just gave it to her.
They sought her out from county council because the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors treats all county organizations as though we are their children, right? So if you think about it that way, and they want their children to get along. Well, as the public defender's office, we can't get along with the district attorney's office or the sheriff's department, often not DCFS, because they have interests that are counter to ours. We need to be independent, and we need to be treated better because of all the county organizations. The public defender's office is the only one that is protecting a constitutional right. Mm-hmm. We are the embodiment of the right to counsel, of the Sixth Amendment. And, everyone else, they're just trying to make this machine work. And we are the only potential cog in that machine. And we are the ones who are on the front lines, as we talked about. So even when legislation passes and we get, these steps forward in criminal justice reform, the sheriff's department and the district attorneys, they're often trying to figure out a way around whatever law was just passed. And then we have to go in and fight. So for us to be the office that is being mismanaged and, not given ahead, not making attractive packages available to applicants, they're trying to say nobody wants the job. That's not true. It's they're not offering anything.
So here's the thing. Light bulb just went off in my head. I asked a question. I was serious. If I'm in an abusive relationship, I need to get out. Right. And this just answered it right here, that there is no way that the public defender's office should be in this system as you speak. It should not be a part of this system. It should be a separate body to its own. It has to leave that relationship. It's just as simple as that, or the community will continue to suffer.
We flirted with the idea of trying to make this an elected position.
Right.
Where someone is accountable directly to the voters. And that would take an amendment to the county charter. But that may be something that needs to happen so that we could have our leader have the independence to speak out against, police brutality and misconduct and legislation that's on the books. That may need to be.
Right. So something else you just said. So if there is something that needs to be said about police brutality or any kind of misconduct, are you guys kept under the rug and can't speak about it? I know Prop 47 was written by a public defender. I don't know who, but can she or he speak clearly about that? Or are there limits and restraints on speaking out?
Not as a public defender, they're not supposed to. So in other words, I could say, as Alisa who lives up the street, I take issue with this, or I can put something, but I'm not supposed to say as a public defender and then assign those beliefs to the public defender's office. But again, right now, in my mind, it's prison rules. So I've been trying to tweet the Board of Supervisors. I've been directly saying, Mark Ridley Thomas, how come you haven't given us a qualified leader? Hilda Solis, how come you're letting ICE come into the juvenile facilities and take our clients away, which just happened earlier this week. And of course, they're not responding, and the problem is everyone tries to move in secret and move quietly and be anonymous. That's not my way. Right. So, it's like, okay, so you won't respond to my tweet, but then a colleague or a friend or someone outside the office will say, what did you just tweet? Because I just got a call from this person or that person. And I'm like, talk to me.
Right.
You know what the problem is. Let me tell you, let's have a meeting. Any one of the board of supervisors, let's have a meeting, and I'll tell you how you can get out from under this.
Right.
But until then, the train won't stop.
I mean, besides, like I always say, I don't work for the board. I work for God and my client. Right. That's it. And so I feel like we're on a righteous journey.
Yes.
And so
really
come what may, at the end of the day, if they take away this position from me, I am still a lawyer barred in the state of California. And so I can go and do this work elsewhere. That's not the point. I would love to build this office back to where it needs to be. I would love to have it be an engine for change. But if they decide to do their worst, then the work continues. And I will always be in the community. They can't shut my mouth. That's what they're not going to do.
Well, Skipp and I have been doing this for quite a while, and he and I talk about the system, and we put that blanket over it because it seems to be working against our people. We seem to be the product to sustain some economies, and that's from the police through the court system all the way through the prison, from guard to warden to food services to the phones.
Global telling.
Okay. And
I got my money today.
The overtime that goes with it. And somebody joked years ago that if the DEA actually won the war on drugs, they would have to forfeit their budget.
Right.
Okay. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't won the war on drugs.
Hey, listen,
because
the same
it's about
with
the budget. They don't want to lose it.
Same with the gang unit.
Yeah.
So there is a group called OSS, Operation Safe Streets, from the LA County Sheriff, and they're countywide. But as we have fewer gang-related homicides and we have fewer of the gang-related incidents, they never lost their budget.
They never lost their budget.
Crash turned into the Gang Enforcement Detail, GED, with LAPD. They still have a full unit. 77 Southwest have their own. Everyone has their own gang enforcement detail. However, we have less gang violence, less gang homicides, but they never lost their budget. Something to think about.
It's the system. The system is set up. It's designed. I'm going to keep saying that. $75,000 for a body in that bunk versus the empty cell. What would you do? You're the businessman. This is your business. What would you do?
Open up a prison. It seems profitable.
And buy stock on Wall Street.
As a community, though, we have to start considering our role that we played in this building of mass incarceration.
Yes.
Because they play on our fears with gang violence and super predators, and these youngsters are carjacking and shooting and drive-by shooting. And our communities have been victims of violent crime as well as the perpetrators. In my own family, that has been true. However, we cannot look at it that way. The dehumanizing way they treat people in the system cannot be tolerated. I don't care if you're guilty. If you need to be treated like a human being, you don't lose your humanity with an adjudication of guilt. You should still be valued. You should still be rehabilitated. Because a 17-year-old commits a gang homicide does not mean his life is over. No, it means he needs to be rebuilt. Yeah. And I understand the punishment component. I get that. But you can't cage humans forever. And you also can't put them in these tiny, dank cells for 20 and 30 years and expect them to reintegrate into the community.
This is exactly what they have been doing. So under Prop 47, everybody's afraid, they're going to let the killers out. They're going to run up and down the street, and they're going to carjack me and burglarize my home. And the whole point was they were minimum offenders.
Yeah.
Not murderers. They weren't releasing murderers and rapists. This is my understanding. But at the same time, there was that side that wanted them to stay in lockup.
Yeah.
If you're in lockup, you're presumed guilty.
But can I say, to bring it back full circle, that this is why it's important to have a qualified leader, because the narrative for too long has been dictated just by the prosecution and by the sheriffs.
Yeah. And by the media.
Right. Well, and the media...
Once they get that information... So for officer-involved shooting, say it happens right now while we're speaking. Within 10 to 15 minutes, law enforcement will let the media know everything about that victim. And he will not be a victim, he will be a suspect.
That's right.
So the suspect went to prison, went to jail, but we will never know anything about that officer until a year or so later, after there's been an investigation or whatever. So that's how the media portrays, the people in our community, and they get the help.
Like they did with Anthony Weber.
16-year-old
Anthony Weber just shot a few weeks ago by the sheriff, suspected of having a gun. Suspected, no evidence, no body camera to show that. Oh yeah, he turned on the officer and threatened that officer's life. So here we are again with they said it was this way. The media agreed with them. The family said they're lying. You see, but the weight is on their side. The believability goes with news and the sheriffs, and the disbelief gets heaped on us and Anthony.
Right, but see, the scales once again are unbalanced. I didn't mean to cut you off, Christina, but the scales are unbalanced because of the fact that we do not know anything about the other party, but within a 10 or 15 minute period, law enforcement gracefully just gives up whatever information they can find to tip that scale.
Well, this is why
so that the community believes exactly that we are animals, we are this because of whatever past history.
The 16-year-old was a gang member, presumably armed, and therefore it was okay to execute him because he ran. This is the way that story goes. He ran, we shot him. Case closed. You see, so the difference is Anthony doesn't get that second chance. He's going straight to the homicide. He's going straight to the coroner, then straight to the cemetery. You see, so it's very important for us to have our eyes open, black and brown community. Stop playing this game
phone call.
Law enforcement and the system. Hello, caller. Can you hear us?
Hold on.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to Gang Talk.
Hi, Miss Herron. Hi, Skip. This is Gloria from Option House.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
I'm watching your show, and I'm amazed by the conversation. But I wanted to add to your topic and state that, we're doing domestic violence prevention in Norco State Prison. And
could you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I said we're doing domestic violence prevention and intervention classes in Norco State Prison. And to see these men traumatized by early childhood trauma and how it's affected them as adults, and actually getting the information and education now has been amazing to see these men understand the process in which they went through and the choices that they made.
Right.
I questioned, they have a YLP unit there, and I questioned, there was probably about 20 youth. And I asked them, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, but how many of you have witnessed domestic violence in your home and in your environment?
Yes. We discussed that with the bullying last week, is that kind of thing starts in the home, and parents don't realize you're raising a child that's going to turn into a bully. Or a batterer in the case of a domestic violence scenario. You're teaching your son and your daughter that that's acceptable conduct. So when you allow that to be a part of your child's growing years, he's going to grow up to think that's normal.
He or she.
And
I think one of the questions I ask is, what can the community do? So thank you, Gloria, for doing something.
Yes,
everyone can do something, going into prison or whatever. So, that is definitely one of our solutions. But what is it that the public defender's office can have us do?
Yeah, what can we do to help you?
Can I just say that people, who don't know the work that we do will say things to me in these fancy parties about how do you defend those people, and so even if they're guilty, because I make no distinction between innocent and guilty clients, I care for them equally, and so I like to tell them first, before any of my clients were clients, they were victims of a failed school system, of over policing, of oppression, of abuse, of neglect, of all sorts, a myriad of societal failures, systems failing them since they were born. And so we talk about the domestic violence abuser, you will always have a broken boy behind that crime. You will always, uniformly, there's been some person who has victimized them in a way that has has crushed them as a child and they need to be built back up. They don't need to be caged. They need to be treated and respected and given their dignity and understood, because no one drops from the sky a drive-by shooter. They don't drop from the sky an armed robber. Mm-hmm. Things happen to children, and we don't protect our children, and they end up my clients.
Right. So the victims and suspects both come out the same house.
Yep.
And we got to be clear on that. So we're going to run out of time in a minute. I want to make sure that each one of you have the opportunity to share. Is there something that you want to leave the community with? Something that you want everybody to know, or your last thoughts, kind of, Alisa?
I think it's important for the community to know that we are fighting for them, that we are an office of nearly 700 lawyers. We're at least budgeted to be 708 lawyers. And that individual experiences and media representation, there's a vested interest in making the public defender out to be something that is not helpful, because then there's distrust and clients don't want to go to trial. They don't want to assert their rights. They think that they're going into the process alone. So if you believe in these conspiracies and you believe in the money that's on the backs of black and brown bodies, men and women, then you have to recognize and question who's on my side and what do they gain from this. Public defenders, we're not getting paid by you. We get paid regardless. So why are you trusting somebody who's saying, public defenders suck, give me $50,000?
Right. And 9 times out of 10, they was probably a public defender themselves. Or I've even seen district attorneys become criminal defense attorneys.
Yeah.
You say hustlers?
Saying.
Yes, indeed. Well, say it, because this is, this is why you guys are here, because we don't know. I'm going to tell you from a lockup standpoint, we're saying, who's your public pretender?
Right, of course.
Right.
Who's your public pretender? Who's pretending to have your back? And we sitting here saying, man, they golf together, they go eat together, they slide each other cases, they slide each other cases. I'm just telling you that they say that. Collusion. So I need you to say that. Don't.
Well, here's what I want to say is that we know there have been problems in the past. We know there are people in our office and other public defenders who have not done the work. We know that. But it's a new day, right? This is a time for us to reconcile our office with the people that we serve. There are too many good lawyers that catch a bad rap because they carry the title public defender. We want to let people know, give us a chance. When you meet us, give us a fresh start like we give you, and we will prove to you that we have your interests at heart. We can do this together as a community. I got one foot in the hood and one foot in the courtroom all the time. Right. And so they will know that they have someone on their side once they meet me. But let's work together.
Right. So, saying that too, I just got a text message from the ceasefire committee, and they say I can have March 21st. To have you guys come, and I could facilitate a meeting with you and the Southern California Ceasefire Committee. Yeah,
because we need to do.
So it don't have to be 3. It could be 30. It could be 10. It could be 12. However many you guys say, are you willing on the 21st of March to come to the Southern California Ceasefire Committee?
You have a forum with us.
You can have a forum. So that way you can have 10 toes on the pavement. All 10 I have.
We're running from here to a meeting with the rest of the lawyers of the resistance. We're constantly working in meetings.
Indeed.
We'll bring a crowd.
Yeah, because we really need
I get the emails. I see the Instagram posts too as well.
Because we really want to know what we.
Well, we're gonna run out of time, Christina. You got to say something.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for having us here, and I wanted to encourage people to write to their supervisors, to post on social media, to let them know that this is an unacceptable practice. And just on an aside, to let you guys know that a lot of these private lawyers will come up to us in court and ask us for advice. And ask us how they should proceed on a case. So just know that after you may have put over your life savings over, they're still asking us.
Right. Yes, so let us support you. The public defenders, where would you be without them? Come on, family. Right. Let's be fair about this. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and Gang Talk will be back next week. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you for having us.
You're going to come back.